All right, Claude. So for the people that just got a launch monitor, our high handicap average golfers, what are the keys that they need to think about when getting started with this setup?
Well, I think the best thing that a launch monitor can do, and the great thing about Rapsodo, is it's going to allow you to understand and have a good idea of how far you hit your golf ball. I think a lot of players think they know how far they hit it, but we're very influenced by television, right? We're very influenced by what we see on TV, and those are kind of some numbers that I think a lot of people just kind of use for their own game. So I think it's important that you as a player understand how far you hit each of your golf clubs. It doesn't matter how far the best players in the world hit their clubs. It doesn't matter how far the players in your group. If you have a really good understanding as to how far you hit all the clubs in your bag, it's going to make playing the game of golf much easier, and I think you're going to make better decisions on the golf course. I think what a lot of average golfers do is, on the golf course, whatever the yardage is, they pull a club out of their bag that if they absolutely hit it dead in the center of the club face, hit a perfect shot, it would go that distance. So having a launch monitor will kind of allow you to understand, one, how far you hit each club, but also the range at which you're going to hit that club, right? There is going to be a range of about 5 to 10 yards on either side of a number that you're going to hit your clubs. And I think that's knowledge is power. And if you can practice and know that my sand wedge goes this far, my pitching wedge goes this far, 9-iron, 8-iron, all across the bag, I think it makes club selection on the golf course much easier.
So give me the action steps. I got some balls here. We got our
so the
setup.
best thing to do would be to start off with wedges you have. So you've got a sand wedge, you've got a lob wedge, but in an ideal world, you would set up the Rapsodo and then hit 10 balls with each club. And based off of that, you're going to have a pretty good gauge on how far the golf ball is going.
So I've hit a few shots here. Like what kind of averages are we seeing? What kind of difference? I've hit some good, some bad.
Yep.
That one's okay. Like what are we seeing with some of these averages here, and what might people expect?
Yeah, so if we're looking at the balls that you've hit, you've got a
9-iron.
9-iron. How far do you hit your 9-iron? How far do you feel like you hit your 9-iron?
153.
Okay, so we've hit 1, 2, 3. The first one you hit was 154. The second one you hit was 162. The third one was 158. Fourth one almost 170. Then 166, 165, and then back to 156.
Okay, farther.
Yeah. So again, there's no right answer.
Right.
Okay, but I do think that players sometimes overestimate or underestimate how far they hit their golf clubs. And again, a couple of these shots, the ones that weren't really solid, the ones that went the shortest, were the ones that you didn't catch solid. And you know, the cool thing about the Rapsodo launch monitor is we can kind of look at each shot and see what the club face is doing. We can see if that club face is coming in open. We can see if that club face is coming in closed. It's also going to give you a pretty good idea based off of the impact view. It's going to help you start to understand, okay, that one was a little bit off the toe. When it's a little bit off the toe, the club through impact looks like it's doing this. That was a little bit more in the heel and the neck. When the club and the ball contact each other there, that's what the club face is. So I think this is another way to not have to rely so much on what your divot looks like, because you can just go back and say, okay, that was a really good shot. Let me go ahead and take a look at what that club looks like it's doing through impact. And on the best ones you hit, and on the ones that go the straightest, we can see from this impact view that the golf ball or the golf club is going through impact fairly square. There's not a lot of twisting of the face. And I think that's really important as well. So when you're getting your yardages, you're looking at what the good shots are, and then you're looking at what, okay, that one wasn't as solid, so that when you go out on the golf course, it should help you over club, right? I think everybody that I teach at the average non-elite competitive level, they just don't take enough club, right? It's a cliche, but 8-iron, so this should allow you to say, okay, on the golf course, I've got whatever my 8-iron distance is, okay, it's a little bit into the breeze. I'm probably not gonna be able to jump on this and hit it solid, so let me go ahead and go up and go to the 7. I think that's really important, but 10 balls with each club will kind of give you a good gauge on how your distances look. And then where I think it's really, really valuable and important is in the wedge game. You know, your wedges, you should have a really good idea, however many wedges you have. A lot of players now at the elite tour level, they're carrying 4 wedges. I think most people are carrying around 3. They're carrying a lob wedge, a sand wedge, and a pitching wedge. It's really important that you know how far those distances are with all of those clubs. And I think once you start to dial that in, I think it'll help par 5 scoring as well, because if you can't get to the par 5s in 2, you lay up to a distance that you have practiced and you know you're really good at, and you lay up to a yardage that you can have quantifiable data to say, yeah, I know I'm really good from this distance with this club.
Okay. Give us some action steps for our average golfer with wedges. What should we do? 25, 50, 75 and try to hit those yardages?
I think baseline numbers kind of, that 25, 50, 75, and 100. Those are good numbers to hit. But another thing I think that Rapsodo is really helpful for, Dustin Johnson became one of the best wedge players in the world by using a launch monitor. But one of the things that DJ did was, with all of his wedges, he has 3 swings with his wedges. He has a half swing, he has a 3/4 swing, and then he has a full swing. So he knows, based off of the information that he's going to get, he knows how far the half swing goes, he knows how far the 3/4, and he knows how far the full swing goes. And then the cool thing about the Rapsodo is, if you're working on that, right, you're working on your half swing to see how far it goes, you can look at the video playback to see what your half swing looks like, and then correlate that to, okay, that motion creates this distance. And so if you have a half swing and you know that number, and you have a 3/4 swing and a full swing, so you do that with every wedge, what it then allows you to do is never really get to the end range. That's what I see. Most people, if it's a wedge, they will go to their max wedge swing, then the ball starts to spin too much. So in DJ's case, he never wants to get to a lob wedge where he's swinging at it full. Instead of going full swing with the lob wedge, he'd just go 3/4 with the sand wedge, or he could go half swing with the pitching wedge. So I think by knowing your wedge distances and knowing how far they go, it's going to give you a much better options on the golf course to be more creative, to not just have one shot.
Yep. No, it's great. Okay, so we got our game plan to get started with for beginner golfers. We get set up, we're gonna go through, hit 10 shots with our irons, and we're gonna get our 3 wedge swings, and we're gonna dial those in as well. I think you make a great point with that camera, because most of us don't know what we're doing with our wedges, and we think it's a half swing, it's not. So having that great feedback. Yeah,
and I think the visual of where the backswing is and where the follow through is. So with one launch monitor, you can look at the video of your golf swing. You can look at the impact of how the golf club in real time is going through, and then you can get all of the data that's going to tell you how far everything is going. And if you do those things, it's going to help you when you get on the golf course.
Perfect. Thanks, Claude.